Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Transform. We are so happy to be in person in Los Angeles today with our beautiful best friend, someone we get to work with on form all the time, one of our form trainers, Brynley. She is the best human, literally sunshine in human form, and just getting to be in person is always such a gift. We've had such a fun week of you guys filming some killer workouts. I'm honestly jealous of how sore Sam and Bryn are right now.
Gosh. No, like literally I'm like, Bryn, my body is on another level.
We are in pain.
Shout
out Kaylin for your Pilates abs.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to do Kaylin's Pilates abs, because if Sam and Bryn are sore, being like the 0.01%.
We'll link the workout that we're talking about and you'll feel it after too.
Yeah, it was so good. But we're so happy to have you here and just excited to chat more. I know that we had another episode with you. With anyone who hasn't listened to that, you can go back and listen to Bryn's first episode where we dive into so much of you being a form trainer and kind of your journey of health and wellness. But there were so many more questions now that you've deeply been a part of the form community, transform community, but also your own community. And I feel like we just would love to have a girls chat and let everyone into your world. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me back, you guys. I'm so excited.
It
seems like the last time was like 3 years ago. We were saying yesterday, it feels like I've been on form for so long now, but it's only been like 6 months?
I know. Last night we were chatting, so we all got foot massages, which y'all, if you're listening to this and you are crushing work right now, also crush your rest and your recovery.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful that we took that time to get a foot rub, because dang, that was amazing.
And a scalp rub. We got a whole shebang.
It was so nice, and it was so sweet. We were at Den Mother in Venice, which is awesome if you guys live locally, and one of the masseuses was telling us, is masseuses a word?
Yeah.
Masseuses.
Okay. Masseuses. It does not sound English, but okay.
You're asking the wrong person. I'm like,
masseuses, don't have me spell it, but like, okay. One of them was saying that some girlies that were in earlier in the week were talking about form and loved form, and she was asking us so many business questions, which is so fun to get to chat about, and asking us when Brynley joined. And we were like, what year was that?
We couldn't think about it. We had no idea.
I mean, truly, we launched your program last summer.
Yeah.
And so much has happened since. And we'll absolutely chat through all the goodies that are to come. But to have you back here and just kind of give all the life updates for anyone listening who doesn't follow Brynley yet. We fell in love with Brynley first just from following her on social media. And obviously your gifts of being a fitness instructor are what makes it such an organic fit on form. But the way you live your life day to day is so inspirational, and I think is just the most positive thing to witness. And one big aspect of your life is travel. And I think it's so fun to tap into where you get your inspiration, some of your favorite trips, but also this new season for you of just loving being home in 30A in Florida. You've got to tell everyone about your hometown.
Yes, we were chatting all about this yesterday, so I've already filled the girls in a little bit, but I'm in a homebody era right now. I feel like the past couple years of my life has just been go, 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 book as many trips as possible, say yes to everything, which I feel like there's a season for that, because you look back and you have the best memories and you make the best out of the craziness and like the hustle of it. And so I'm very grateful for that, but I'm also very grateful for this year of just like craving home. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like we traveled so much last year, and I got back in the start of January. I was like, I need to chill out. I need to like actually say no to stuff now, and like intentionally say no so that I can say yes to my home and yes to my community locally and yes to things going on in my hometown that maybe I've taken for granted in the past year. So I feel like right now I am just really trying to stay home as we're sitting in LA, but this was a quick one.
But you're going home this afternoon.
But honestly, just pouring into friendships at home, even thinking to the little things like the restaurants that I overlook. And I live in 38, which if you're not familiar, it's this teeny tiny little like perfect beach town that I love so much. But the excitement of the world gets me and like pulls me away from it so often. So I'm really trying to just kind of consider myself as like a tourist in my own town right now and just really like dive into what I love about my hometown. So that's where I'm at right now. But we'll see how long that lasts.
I know if people see Brynley's morning routine, she dives into the like blue, purple, orange, green ocean. Like the colors are insane. Water. I actually texted Brynley and I said, can you send me the link of her underwater camera that she uses? Because if you see her content, she's swimming underwater and it is so beautiful. She does it in the sunrise. And you guys, I did it. I'm in Venice Beach where it's like green, like not cute green.
You're like dodging needles on the
like,
beach.
this isn't the vibe. I need to use the camera when I go to somewhere as magical, but it really is like so.
You should recreate it in Venice.
No, I actually should.
That would be hilarious.
It's like freezing. There's so much whatever in the ocean. Like that would actually be a funny piece of content. But I feel like your morning routine and just seeing your world that you have created there has been so beautiful. Yeah. And I love that you have such a space at home that's so beautiful. But you've also traveled truly, I feel like, the entire world. Like I love following along on your journey and your travel bug that you have. I would love to know, like, what are your things you look for when you travel? And I know you travel a lot with your husband or your dog, which is like my dream. But what is like your guys' plan when you go, okay, we're going to actually take this travel this year? Even last year, I know you traveled so much. What's the intention behind the places you picked? And then maybe sharing some of your favorite places and why.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love travel so much. I feel like first, when we're thinking of where we want to go, we think of the intention behind the trip. So you have trips that are meant to be restful and restorative. And then you have trips that are meant to be, like we were talking about, crazy adventures and just pure, like, childlike fun. And then you have the trips where you're like, oh, I want to dive into the culture of this place because I'm very intrigued by it. So I think when you're first thinking of a trip, think about what's the reason you want to go there. And then you can kind of like tailor your experience to that. So if we're going on a restful trip, I feel like booking an Airbnb that's kind of secluded is always so much fun. We did Crete and we booked an Airbnb on the top of this like hill in the middle of nowhere, which there are cons to that because you definitely have to think of like how you're getting up the mountain when it's just rubble dust everywhere, and like what rental car are you going to get, and what if you don't know the road signs because it's in a completely different language. So there's definitely cons that you have to work around, but I think like booking an Airbnb that's kind of off the grid is so special for that because then you have the trips like I'm thinking Positano, where we're staying right in the city, and it's a totally different energy you get. It's fun, it's lively, you can walk out and find anything to do right there. So it just really depends on like the vibe you're going for, but I think both are so great. It's more about like what season and what you're craving in that season.
I love that.
And then I guess to answer like the second half of your question of favorite places.
Yeah, gosh. I know that might be hard because you've traveled
it's so loaded.
So much. So maybe in the last like
with
2
specific
years,
intentions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Like, what is your favorite place that the intention was to relax and rejuvenate, and then an intention that was to be playful and childlike?
I think, well, I kind of want to start with when I did the world race for travel. The intention behind that was actually going to volunteer and to serve in different countries. So I think for that one, it was really interesting because usually when you think of travel, it's kind of like a selfish thing, which isn't bad, but it's like, I'm going here to get this experience for me, you know? And for the world race, we were going to literally just show up and volunteer in places that were in extreme poverty or just going through like really hard things. So it was a whole different energy in going to these places. And we went to Thailand, Cambodia, Colombia, and Ecuador. And I think for those, it was really interesting because one, our budget was like this big. It was so tiny. So we were staying in hostels that were like $19 a night. We were doing like bunk beds with each other. We were surviving off just a couple dollars a day for food, which is crazy when you hear that. But in Thailand, I mean, you can get pad thai for $1 and it's a massive portion. So it's really not that hard, just depending on the country you go. But I would say that was a really fun experience with that. And it's very unlikely that you're going to choose that for yourself unless you're like going for a purpose with serving. So if you're interested in that type of like rustic off the grid travel, I think doing any type of volunteer trip, there's so many you can Google, and just if you want to serve at a hospital or at an orphanage, or if you want to do like human trafficking restoration, those are all some of the things we did there, and that was so incredible. But then after that, I feel like we've tapped more into the selfish travel, but not in a bad way, in an amazing way, because travel grows you as a person so much. And so I feel like for the fun adventure style stuff, Hawaii is always a safe bet.
Where in Hawaii?
Oahu, the North Shore is my favorite on earth. But I know Sam has been to Kauai, and I'm really intrigued to go there as well. But I feel like the North Shore is just the perfect mix of everything. It's pretty off the grid, but you still have the city close by if you need like groceries, or if God forbid something happens and you need to go to a hospital or something, it's not too far away from everything. So the North Shore is up there. Costa Rica is one of my favorites, and I know you're going soon.
I know, we're both planning.
Yeah,
all the Costa Rica goodies.
We went to Santa Teresa, which is where you're going to, right?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've heard. I was texting with
magical.
Flynn, which is JT's friend, and I was like, tell me about Santa Teresa, and he described it using the word piratey, and I'm like,
that's a vibe.
Fucking yes. Like, I want to be a pirate.
I know you said that to me. You were like, pirates, right? I was like, yeah.
Like barefoot on the beach with ATVs.
Yeah.
Piratey.
I love that.
Like, that's exactly the energy
I
you
think
need.
that's so true. I think my favorite thing about Santa Teresa is you can't go in and expect to like be cute and put together there.
Right.
So I remember my friend Mary Margaret and I brought all these like fun outfits for dinners and stuff, and we wore nothing. All we wore was a bikini and jean shorts and barefoot the whole time. And it just like strips you of this like idea for a perfect travel trip, because you're dusty, you're just like going to the beach every day, you're riding on ATVs, and it's just like a completely different vibe than what you're used to. But love that one. Also, the food is amazing there, so definitely recommend Santa Teresa. We did take a teeny tiny prop plane there, so that's one thing which I'll have to talk to you about. But we flew into a storm on it, and you fly to San Jose on a regular plane, and then you get on this tarmac, and only 6 people fit in the prop plane. And literally the pilot, I was hovering over him so close, and you see like the radar, and we're flying into this crazy storm, and the whole plane is just like bouncing up and down. So wild. But that's the only downfall of Santa Teresa. It's hard to get to.
Oh,
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And then to wrap it up, I think if you're going for a peaceful, like restorative vacation, I would say Crete was honestly the most like peaceful. It's very off the grid. And when you think of Greece, you think of Santorini, usually like the white buildings and the fancy restaurants and like the honeymoon vibes. But Crete is it's almost more like farmland and rustic. There's goats walking around everywhere. There's not a lot of city life, at least in the place that we were. And it is just so beautiful. It's the most crystal clear water. It has beautiful beaches, amazing food, very healthy options. I would say that is the most peaceful place I've ever been.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I feel like with all of your travels too, shit has got to go wrong sometimes. And I know you're pretty iconic at like missing flights in the cutest way.
I'm notorious for it.
Tell us some funny stories. Like, when does stuff just not go your way, and how do you handle it?
Yeah. Our most recent trip to St. Vincent in the Caribbean was a whirlwind. Oh my goodness. So the way there was pretty peaceful. The actual trip itself was great, and then the way home was an absolute nightmare. So we got to the airport and we kept getting delayed, and I feel like that's kind of normal nowadays. Like, flights are always delayed, so we're like, whatever, don't think anything of it. It's delayed at this point like 7 hours past when we were supposed to go. And we finally hear on the intercom, they like talk in their language first and then English, and we're like, what's going on? And then we hear, we actually ran out of fuel on the island, so you guys can't leave.
On the island.
Hold on. How does that even happen? Like, is that even possible? What? And basically, like, we were talking to the pilot because we had deadlines we had to get back for, and it was just this crazy thing. And they completely ran out of fuel. They started fueling our plane that we were getting on, filled up halfway, and then they were like, oh, we actually don't have enough. So in my head, I'm like, how does that actually happen when you have like systems and numbers and you know like the exact amount of fuel? So that was wild. And we ended up, and so we were there for like 14 hours just waiting, and they basically were like, we're out of fuel and we can't get any in, so we don't know what to tell you. So we stayed in like a teeny tiny like hut hotel that night with all of our baggage, and at 5 a.m. went back to the airport and just like waited for fuel and finally left. But that was insane. And to give you context, the airport there has 0 food, and it's like no air conditioned, 90 degrees, so you're just pouring sweat. But I say all this to say, and not to complain, like with travel, with fun travel, that stuff just comes with it.
Totally.
And it's what makes the trip, and it's what makes you bond with the people you're with, because you're like, we have to let go of this idea of perfection, and let's just like make the most out of it and laugh. And I feel like that's what makes a trip sometimes.
I love that. I feel like with life in general, whenever you're taking things too seriously, the world just laughs at you.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's so hard when you're not in control. Like, you can't do anything about there not being enough airplane fuel on a freaking island.
So true.
So you just gotta roll with
Go
it.
with it.
Yeah, you get a vacation extension.
Yeah. Mel Robbins' book right now, which I'm only 2 chapters in, but the Let Them
Let
theory.
Them.
Have you guys read it?
I have just listened to her talk about
Mel
it.
Robbins
Okay.
is basically our god.
Okay, yeah,
So-
she's amazing.
We love her.
But truly what you're saying with the Let Them theory, I feel like that's one of those moments, and there's so many things you can apply it to in life, but it's one of those moments where you're like, I physically can't do anything to change this, so I'm not going to sit here and be sour and be in a bad mood. Like, I'm going to make the most out of it and just like let it happen and try to make the most out of the moment. So I feel like that's a lot of travel, honestly.
I feel like you travel a lot, you do a lot with your husband, and even speaking of like the people you listen to in your life, like a Mel Robbins, I'm like, your partner is obviously such an impact and a person in your life that you have on your day to day. And that is, I love that how intertwined you guys are in your world, and you see that so beautifully.
Yeah.
I feel like we had so many questions come in because I think you guys did get married on the younger side, and you guys, you know, have this incredible marriage that I think a lot of people look up to. So we had a lot of questions about advice for marriage. Like, what would you tell people seeing you and Lucas have this relationship that you guys have devoted to? What do you feel like has made it so special?
I love that. Yeah, we got married when I was 22, so I would say that's pretty young. And we've been married for 4 years now. And I feel like the first couple years, I mean, when you're 22, you're still figuring yourself out. So it's definitely difficult to enter into a relationship and become one with someone when you're still trying to figure yourself out. So I feel like for us, the first year to year and a half was truly like trying to make it work together, but also figuring out, like, right out of college and stuff, who we are as people. And so I feel like if you're in that situation, just having grace for each other in that, and knowing like you might shift, you might change, perspectives might change, but like, let's find a way to grow together if you're really committed to that person. So I think that's what we really tapped into. And I know like a tangible step with that, if you're in a similar stance right now, or maybe it's your first year of marriage and you're like, this is a little bit hard to figure this out right now. I think the biggest advice I can tell you is to figure out each other's love languages, because I think going into the relationship, we didn't really know much about love languages, and you go your whole life like knowing how you feel loved. And when you enter into a relationship or a marriage or anything serious, you want to love that person in the way that you feel loved, but it might not be the way that they feel loved. And so I think that was our biggest wall that was up that we had to work through in the first year of marriage, to just be like, okay, maybe the way that I feel seen and loved isn't the same way that you do, so let me learn how you actually feel loved.
y'all's different?
Yeah, so I'm very physical touch, and I feel like it's hard to describe physical touch because it's not like necessarily a sexual thing. People want to think like, oh, your physical touch, it's that type of thing, but it's more so like, I want you to walk past me in a crowd of people and just like brush my shoulder and let me know that like you see me in a room of people, and I want you to like hold my hand in little moments. So it's little touches like that that just make me feel like you see me even in the chaos of life. And he doesn't care about physical touch at all. He doesn't like massages. He does not.
Oh yeah, we were chatting about
this. And so
funny.
even I remember in the first year of marriage, like when we would be out and about with friends, I'd like come over and want to like touch his shoulders or like rub his neck real quick, and he was just like, ooh, what is that? And so learning just like, we don't feel loved the same way. So that's mine. And then his is words of affirmation, which it took me a while to get used to and get good at affirming him with words, because I didn't really grow up doing that. I grew up more with like quality time and just like friends, like hugging them, like physical touch type of stuff. So learning how to make him feel affirmed, like as a man, especially with words, was definitely a learning curve for me. But I think you just get better after time. And once you know how they feel loved, like you just got to keep trying, and then it will start to come naturally to you because they're your partner and you just care so much about like making them feel loved in the relationship. So yeah. What are your guys' love languages?
Mine have actually changed, which is really interesting. And I'm like Lucas. I'm really big on words of affirmation. But I also do love physical touch. But physical touch has like come in and out for me. And it's been interesting. Like after some trauma in like the past couple of years, I haven't really wanted to be touched as much. But now Andrew knows I'm like, I want the biggest hug. Like you know that meme that's like, I want our eyeballs touching. Like that is how I am.
Yes.
And I need it. And But it goes in waves. So I've really learned that like I need to communicate how I want to be receiving love.
Yes.
And then Andrew is big on quality time. I mean, like truly to the point where our phones cannot exist because that is how he's defining quality time. And I agree.
Yeah.
And I think within that, you know, they can all kind of be umbrellas of each other. And to him, like that quality time includes really like deep conversations and physical touch and all these beautiful things. But it's been interesting for me of seeing how even some days like I know when I need the hug and like that love more, and then other days where I just need that extra boost from his words to my ears of just like breathing in that confidence into me like knowing my worth too. What about you, Sam?
I love that.
I feel like mine have changed dramatically too. Like I think I'm actually even reflecting right now because I haven't even asked myself as of late. I feel like they all matter to me right now besides like gifts. Like I feel like that's the one that I just gifts, like I rather you write me a card than like a present as much. Like just it's gifts are also the worst thing that I do. Like I'm not a good gift giver. So when I receive them, I'm so grateful for the people that give them because I know that it comes from such a beautiful place. But I feel the same about a card. Like it's just something that I feel like I've always been. So but when I look at all of them, like I feel like right now I kind of need them all in different times, like in which I'm probably that's probably complicated to say, but I think that in the beginning of my relationship I would probably say I was more words of affirmation or physical touch, but now I feel like I'm like all of the above. Like I right now I'd be like, today I'll ask like, hey, I need more words of affirmation today. Some days I need a little bit more space, or you know, I don't want as much physical touch. Quality time was never actually one of like top of my list, and it's top of my list right now, especially with how busy life is and just evolving individually. Like in this partnership, I feel like quality time has been such a pivotal thing for us. So I think it's for me day to day, which is why communication is so important, because I'm like, for JT, I even look at him, his is for sure words of affirmation, and it always has been.
The sticky notes.
The sticky notes, like we know how it goes. So I feel like for him it's been really beautiful to affirm him, because that's something I actually feel really natural in.
Yeah, you are really good at that. You can like, just stare into someone's eyes and like give them the most soul-giving words. It's such a gift.
Thank you for saying that. It really is like the way that I feel like I can give so much. So I'd love to give that to him. But yeah, it is evolving, especially as we're growing and communicating.
Totally. And that's the thing with relationships. It's an ever evolving like work in progress. And I feel like if you're in a relationship that you maybe feel like this isn't perfect, like it's never supposed to be. Like we're humans, and each season of life is going to bring things that we need to work on and we need to pour more intention into. And I think if you just think of it as like this ever going journey, that just make it day by day the best that you can, like that's the way to go about it.
Oh, I love that so much. We were chatting, the three of us at dinner last night, even in reflecting on like the homes that we were raised in. And you know, there's so many lessons in observing other people's marriages, and of that, really just all of us discussing how important it is to continue evolving alongside someone and supporting that evolution. And Bryn, to your point of not needing to be perfect, I think that's been something even in like my personal journey right now that has been life-changing with Andrew, of opening up that door and really understanding why he loves me and hearing from him. And nothing has to do with being perfect. The reasons he loves me actually has everything to do with what happens when I'm not trying to be perfect and when I'm just being myself.
I love that.
And if anyone's listening to this and they do feel that pressure that I think we can all relate to, of, oh my goodness, like I need to present in a certain way, I need to make someone feel seen in a certain way, and all of this being said, like trying to be quote unquote perfect, that is not where you're going to be loved for you.
Totally.
And stripping yourself from that perfection and not needing to, one of the themes in my life right now is like not needing to be looked at, but needing to be seen.
Yes.
And you're only really seen when you're leading with the imperfect version of you.
Totally.
And when you get to choose someone as a life partner, I mean, what a beautiful choice that we all get to make. And that same choice and parallel path of presenting as your authentic self and continuing to evolve into whatever that might look like. And I think you and Lucas starting so young and having already gotten through so many beautiful years of changing and supporting each other through that is such a gift to start that so early. Because I think at dinner last night we realized, like, shoot, our parents kind of had to learn on the latter half of life, and that's tough. Like, that's really tough. You and Lucas have also built a business together with Honey Swim, Sam and I's little favorite bikinis. If you guys have not tried Honey Swim yet, the best. And I'd love to know, like, how supporting each other in life has really shined through in your business together, and him supporting you with your endeavors with Form and personally, and same with his life as well.
Yeah. I think with working with your spouse, it is definitely an ongoing journey of figuring out what works to work with them, because when you're at home just in the same room with them, it can definitely be hard to balance, like, okay, when is this person my coworker and when is this person my lover and my spouse? And so I think for us, figuring out how to kind of separate those, even if it comes down to separating with the physical room we go in. So like office is when we're talking work, and bedroom and living room, and outside is when we're actually in a relationship and like fostering that with each other. So in terms of working with each other, I think it's just like really taking time to figure out what works with you in that sense. And then supporting each other outside of business, I think, is so important too, because when you're working together on a common goal, like, that's a different level of bonding, and that's so awesome to be able to do that with your spouse and create something together. But I think it's also important to support them in their passions and hobbies that don't have anything to do with like what you're trying to create together. So right now for Lucas, that looks like he is tapping into all things training. So he's training for an Ironman, he's training for High Rocks, and I think
He is so
triathlon.
impressive. What's High Rocks?
I'm so bad at describing it, so anybody that's listening is probably going to say I'm wrong, but
It sounds like
in
he's
some
about to
form
run
of
a
like
marathon on a rock.
running combined, some form of running combined with weight circuits, and you basically do like the circuits for a couple rounds, and then you run in between and go back and forth. So it's like strength and cardio. It's very intense. He's done one and he scored amazing, and he's doing another one now. But he's training for all the things, and honestly, sitting back as his wife and just seeing him do things that he's obsessed with and so passionate about, and just like sets him alive inside, is the best thing ever. So knowing in my head that he is words of affirmation, like seeing when he does stuff that he loves, making sure I go above and beyond to give him like love in the way that he needs it in that. So affirming every time he comes back from a run, like asking, how did you like your run? How was it? And just like affirming him in every little way, because that's what makes such a difference in the relationship.
That just was like a little aha moment that I feel like people are also gonna love, of you and Lucas both having your own passions and your own purpose outside of your relationship.
So important.
And like you both individually being so whole, but then coming together to simply just support and love. Could you tap into more of that and how he helps you with feeling so whole independently?
Yeah. I feel like he doesn't have any like grip on me of control with things that I want to do. And I know from former relationships, I felt that a lot. It was like, I don't want you to have a type of independence that like gives you freedom or gives you a way to just like stand out in that sense. And that's a really toxic type of relationship to be in. But with Lucas from the start, it's always been like, I want to lift you up. I want to see you do the things you love. Form is a huge one, like saying yes to Form and being able to come out here with you guys and travel so much and just do things that set me alive, and knowing I have the most amazing supportive partner back home that's just like doing the same as I talked about with his runs, but constantly checking in with me, like, how was today? What did you do? Like, let's talk about what you learned, like let's grow through this together. And I think just having things outside of the relationship that you do independently and you're just so behind one another to empower them in that is so important, because it allows you to still feel like a sense of independence instead of just like, I am solely only this marriage and this relationship. I don't think that's necessarily healthy. I think it's like, you're still a person, you still have passions and things that you love outside of that. And obviously you want to prioritize that relationship and that oneness, but it's so healthy to still have things that you're like working towards yourself on your own as well.
I feel like I heard something the other day, and just hearing you speak on it is you and Lucas both, but are almost the way you guys affirm each other. Like, it seems like you're like, okay, I'm going to really support you and affirm you, and he's going to show up the same.
Yeah.
The way that you energetically say, I'm going to show up as this person, it actually creates your partner to do the same or not. And that's when, you know, you kind of have to have a moment of like, okay, here I'm energetically here, and I need you to kind of go up with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a beautiful thing that I can just hear from both sides, is you guys saying like, I want to support you, even if it's hard for one to do words of affirmation, and you being like, I know this is important. And I just feel like the energy of that, of a partnership showing up in that way, it's not perfect, but it's the fact that you guys choose to show up for each other in that way is like moving mountains in a marriage. And I feel like as individuals, but also together.
Totally. I love that. I feel like I am so motivated by him, and in a relationship, I like to think of it as a steady climb. Like when I'm feeling low or like unmotivated or low energy, I see him just living in that essence that you're talking about, and it makes me want to get up. And then maybe he'll have a day where he sees me doing something and he wants to get up. So it's like this ladder that you just inspire each other. And I think fitness plays into that a lot. Like seeing him crush goals fitness, it makes me excited to also like get in the gym and crush it. Also business wise, if he's doing like inner work, reading, podcasts, just anything you can like look for the good in your partner and see them doing it, just like keeps pulling you up that ladder as well. So I totally agree with that.
How do you guys keep it fun? I feel like you're both very in touch with your inner child, and even in like your travels and seeing all of that, you're just both very alive in a very vibrant way. And I want to know, how do you keep that alive within your marriage? Like, what is your go-to date night? How are you keeping that love so alive in the most fun way?
Thank you for saying that. I love that. I would say we are very youthful. Like, we choose to do things that just feel like kids. And I say all the time, I still feel personally like we're 18 and 19 dating. Like, we truly just prioritize fun together. And whether that's like running down to sunset, jumping in the ocean at sunset and just like screaming our heads off, or whether it's an intentional date night. We had a sourdough date night where we did grilled sourdough at home, and that was so much fun. But just choosing things that are kind of out of the norm that you just feel like are going to bring you back to like childhood play and childhood fun. I also think having a dog does that for you in a relationship.
Totally.
Because it gives you this playfulness always, and just like the most giggliest moments with the dog, and you're like both just trying to take care of something so needy. And I'm sure all the moms listening are like, girl, you don't even know yet. But with the dog, it's like you have this common goal that you just have to take care of this fluffy thing that like poops everywhere and is crazy and gets zoomies. So it just keeps it so fun to have to like do that together. But I'm sure you guys can relate.
And the dog life. I mean, I feel like the videos that I send of just dog content, I mean, you two actually can relate because you two are the dog content that you're also sending. But I do love it in a relationship. It's so special.
Yeah.